Tonight, Port Lincoln set to become the next big wine region, and new campaigns urging consumers to shop local.
With the latest from around the region, your nightly news with Louise Hedger begins now.
Good evening. A new multi-million-dollar grape crushing facility has been unveiled in Port Lincoln as part of a new feature at Tkal Winery. The development is capable of crushing more than 100 tonnes of grapes and is hoped to revolutionise the wine industry on the Eyre Peninsula.
A dream 30 years in the making, now a reality. Peter Tkal's latest project, a state-of-the-art grape crushing facility, now rolling out.
It's a winery, which is the first on Eyre Peninsula, where we actually crush the grapes, ferment the wine.
Previously, grapes were hand-picked from the vineyards, then transported to the Clare Valley to be crushed. This new facility skips the travel, capable of crushing grapes right on the winemaker's doorstep.
The advantage of doing them here is that obviously it's a great expense in freight, but also we can crush straight away. As soon as the grapes are picked, we can get it into the winery and crush immediately.
Without the need of transport, the winery predicts it'll be saving around $3 a bottle. When you're producing thousands of cases of wine each year, the savings quickly add up.
We've created a new industry, which you don't do every day.
The facility houses several large tanks, a presser and a destemmer, all the makings of a good wine. But it's the crusher that's the jewel in this crown, capable of crushing 25 tonnes of fruit an hour.
We'll probably crush about 30 tonne this harvest, and so that crusher can sort of bang through that pretty quickly, but we run it, we're only doing sort of 2 tonne batches at the moment.
With the grape crushing facility complete, work has now begun on a raised cellar door with views overlooking the vineyards. It's hoped it will be a major draw card for tourists, locals and wine lovers alike.
It's been created in a barrel shape, and we're using the same American oak timber as what we use for our wine barrels. So you'll be in a big barrel.
It's hoped the cellar door will be open by Easter and put Port Lincoln on the map as the latest wine region to explore. Nathan Regter, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Australia's seafood industry has launched a new campaign to say it with seafood this Valentine's Day. A local Port Pirie seafood shop is fiercely backing the move amid concerns for Spencer Gulf fishers.
A dozen oysters, a posy of pippies. It may not be the usual Valentine's gift, but this year the seafood industry is urging the community to not flounder and get on board.
To come and have a feed of fresh seafood, especially, like I said, right on our doorstep. Coffin Bay oysters and Spencer Gulf prawns don't go much better than on Valentine's Day.
The push comes amid a nationwide crisis, including the snapper ban in the Spencer Gulf and the coronavirus scare, which has plummeted southern rock lobster sales in Port Lincoln.
Those fishers are doing it pretty tough at the moment, so you can really show your support for your industry, for your local economy, by making sure that you grab some of that local seafood.
Devastation is Australia-wide at the moment. We just got to keep on keeping on, that's the Aussie way.
This popular seafood shop in Port Pirie delivers around the region, with staff calling on the community to come support their industry.
Definitely for security, job security, and the more local produce that we actually support and buy, the better it is for our community.
Saying there's no shortage of choice this Valentine's Day to keep lovers happy.
Our famous SD smoked salmon, which is smoking hot in the smoke box at the moment, is always a crowd pleaser as well.
And the public vote is looking pretty positive.
I love fish.
Pretty good, they make some pretty good smoked stuff and that, so definitely could, I guess, if that's romantic, but I hope they're into aphrodisiacs, I guess.
The local seafood industry is urging the community to keep the craze alive and keep purchasing local, with Easter just around the corner.
And we need those times of years, obviously, to get through the tougher times. So, definitely keep the trend going and get in and get your fresh seafood for Good Friday.
Shari Hams, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Meanwhile, another campaign urging consumers to buy local pork has just kicked off too, with one Port Lincoln supplier leading the movement. It comes amid concerns a majority of ham and bacon products sold in Australia are made from imported meats.
The latest push to get consumers thinking about where their meat actually comes from.
You know that's made from imported meat. This one's an Australian brand, but the majority of all sliced ham in Australia is made from imported meat.
The Australian pork industry aiming to raise awareness around imported meat by getting consumers to think at the percentage of Australian ingredients within their product. One Port Lincoln supplier leading the charge in getting shoppers to think local.
The campaign is to push to buy anything with 90% or above to truly show you are then supporting Australian farmers.
Jason Stevenson breeds free-range Berkshire on Eyre Peninsula, supplying high-end restaurants across Australia. The farmer says he's a big advocate for ethical farming and supporting locals.
Unfortunately, a lot of product from overseas is subsidised, so Australian farmers are doing it on their own backs, coming off of some droughts and things that have been quite challenging. So, you know, you can just support them directly by buying Australian product.
He says a helpful tip for consumers is that imported meat can't have any bone. If it does, it means it's being bred and processed here in Australia.
There's hardly any Australian ingredients. So what's in there? Not Australian pork.
It's important for me to at least know, for my people and my children especially, where their food comes from. It's that simple.
The adverts will be aired across television and radio for 5 months, backed by social media to target the South Australian consumer.
It's an education process to let them know who they can support and how they can do that.
Nathan Regter, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Still to come tonight, renewed calls for a Water Management Royal Commission and a new dumping of sand for Whyala's foreshore. Welcome back. Broken Hill's local member Roy Butler has renewed calls for a Royal Commission into water management along the Darling River. The statement follows exemptions to allow farmers to pump floodwater.
Water promised to the Darling now being pumped out by irrigators up north.
They're being allowed under special provisions for a few days to move some of those floodwaters into their storages, meaning that they won't make it into the river system.
7 Spencer Gulf News understands the state government issued an embargo to allow the recent rainfall in Queensland to flow down the river untouched. But after a handful of northern irrigators expressed concerns about the damage the water could do to infrastructure if it wasn't harvested, they were given the green light to pump.
I really hoped that it was all decisions made on evidence and on data. But what I'm hearing is that data is not available at this stage. And again, that undermines confidence.
The decision to allow the pumping coming just days after the State Water Minister, Melinda Pavey, called on the Queensland Government to restrict water harvesting to support downstream towns. Mr Butler calling for a royal inquiry into the river management, a move gaining the support of local activists.
We've had an opportunity to somewhat mend the Darling River by allowing that water to go down the river. That hasn't happened, and if we don't get a follow-up rain, it could be a dire situation.
Water Minister's office didn't reply by deadline. Patrick Reinke, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
SA water crews have spent much of the day working on a broken water main in Whyala along Darling Terrace. The road was closed off for much of the day, forcing the local bus company to change the route. Council workers had to dig up part of the road to fix the issue, leaving the Civic Council building and surrounding areas without water for the day. Council says it should be fixed by tomorrow. And the Whyala City Council has started work on its annual sand replenishment at the foreshore. The $30,000 project removes seagrass from the coastline and builds up the sand barrier near the car park in order to protect beachside assets.
It's that time of the year again, council moving sand from the breakwater closer to the shore to prevent erosion.
We've got some sandbags that we've put in place to protect people walking along the boardwalk so they don't fall down from where to road, so we've always got sand locked up in those sandbags.
The collected sand used to cover the sandbags, adding to the foreshore's already appealing view.
It's also part of a second part of the project that'll kick off when things cool down a bit in the autumn, where we're going to be direct seeding the frontal dune with endemic native seed all the way along.
The new vegetation, a plan to stop this costly annual project.
We're also going to be planting some tube stock of some species that we really want to encourage to grow here, and that should help lock the sand in so we don't have to keep doing this process.
It's got to be done to protect the dunes, I suppose, and prevent erosion of the wall.
Local earth-moving contractors have been using dump trucks and excavators to dig and move the sand along the western side car park, a project that takes time working with the ocean's tides.
Approximately about $30,000 worth of work. 80% of it is funded by the Coast Protection Board from DEW, Department of Environment and Water, and so they are very much part of this process as well.
Council warned beachgoers to be careful and aware while heavy machinery is in use, as the area is not blocked off. Construction will continue tomorrow and is set to finish by the weekend.
They're creating a nice little trough for me to go crabbing in. That's the way I like it.
Sophia Contagonis, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
A Port Lincoln man has lost his licence on the spot for 12 months after being caught driving with a blood alcohol level 5 times over the legal limit. Police pulled the 30-year-old Malvern man over just before midnight. The driver allegedly returned a reading of .222. The man had his car impounded and is expected to appear in court at a later date. Meanwhile, a 32-year-old Port Pirie man has lost his licence for a year after allegedly recording a blood alcohol reading of 0.202 earlier today. Police allege the man was also driving unlicensed. His car has been impounded for 28 days and he's soon to face court. Stay with us after the break. A Broken Hill vandal strikes again and a major bushfire fundraiser to be held in Port Pirie this weekend. Welcome back. An anonymous Broken Hill vandal has struck again, seemingly fed up with the conditions of some of the city's roads. The culprit has been spray painting messages directed at the local council. Patrick Reinke has the details.
Broken Hill appears to have a graffiti bandit roaming the streets. The person, who's anonymous at this stage, has been tagging a number of roads around town. The vandal spray painting the message "Fix this" on several roads and streets across the city. The markings are usually next to damaged sections of road and bumpy spots when the surface changes. Broken Hill Police today condemning the acts, which they say is malicious damage to public property.
Graffiti's a serious offence and it makes our town look rough and run down. It's not tolerated. Police don't issue warnings or cautions for graffiti offences.
Saying there's better ways to let council know about work to be done.
Social media, all other means, or even go down and see the lady at the desk at the council. They will listen to you and give you feedback.
Council did not wish to comment on the vandalism, instead issuing a statement about the roadworks currently happening around Broken Hill. They say a $600,000 reseal program is currently underway in town. Interestingly, some of the roads that have been rejuvenated were tagged by the spray paint vandal. As always, police are urging anyone with information to contact Crime Stoppers.
Northern York Peninsula residents will be brushing off their sneakers for a Rotary Club bushfire fundraiser this weekend. CFS volunteers will also be participating after witnessing firsthand the devastation on Kangaroo Island.
Running, walking or cycling for a good cause. These York Peninsula locals are gearing up for this weekend's Family Fun Day.
Well, this weekend we have a Show Us Your True Colours, where the people of the Copper Coast are going to get out and support Blaze Aiding KI and also the local Kadita CFS.
CFS volunteers welcoming this fundraiser.
We've got about 30 active members, so we like to raise money for new equipment and trainings and lots of things that we need to help out the community. We have about 150, 180 calls a year.
This volunteer assisted on fire-stricken Kangaroo Island for almost a week.
And it was pretty horrific, the things that we saw. The scrub was just really difficult to put the fire out once it got in there, so we kind of just had to wait for it to come to us and hope that we could put it out when it got there.
Devastating it was, how people have lost everything, houses, sheds, livestock, everything, fodder, and how devastating it was.
Now coming together to raise funds for those who need it most and calling on the wider community to get involved.
We don't know how much is going to go to be written on that cheque, but we hope there's quite a few zeros on there, and so we want to show the people in KI how generous we are.
There's different track times to accommodate everyone.
From here at 10 o'clock, the 9K start, or you can start at 11 o'clock at the 5K start at the halfway mark.
And there's a carnival to finish the day, including food, drinks and entertainment.
Including vocalists, face painting and the dunking machine.
More information can be found on the NYP Rotary Club Facebook page. Shari Hams, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Lifeline stores across the region say they're in desperate need of more volunteers, with the lack of workers leaving the local organisation in dire straits. One volunteer who has worked in Whyalla for almost 2 decades says it's a great way to give back to the community.
A local hero doing her part to help. The Whyalla Lifeline store, part of the charity which gives to its community and helps those struggling.
Lifeline's always been a focal point in our town, helping people with mental illnesses, etc. So I thought, well, I'll look around.
Beverly retired from the Education Department after 20 years. After actively searching for a fulfilling position, she found somewhere she'd be surrounded by her one true love.
I looked around and they actually had a bookshop, and books being my favourite pastime, I walked in the door and said, give me a job.
Beverly says it's a rewarding role which keeps her young, encouraging those who have finished school and need to build up work experience skills to join the crew.
Perhaps some of the knowledge that I've gained over all these years will be a help to them. So I'll keep going as long as I can.
All the funds raised from the retail outlets and the warehouse go back into Lifeline at Broken Hill, country to coast, 100%.
The only prerequisite, a positive attitude and a smile for every customer.
Absolutely essential, because you don't know what those people are going through. And to just go up and say, if you need some help, I'm here to help you.
And the organisation's in desperate need, so much so that they've been previously forced to stay closed with no staff.
All the towns have mega shops now. We need more volunteers and workforce in shops. We need men to empty the donation bins.
The Port Pirie warehouse mostly understaffed too, with a 1-week waiting list for those wanting to donate larger items.
People ring up and they want to donate furniture or something. We need to be able to help them within a day or two.
The organisation also takes mutual obligation from Centrelink for those needing to contribute 15 hours a week, a small amount of time which can make a huge difference to your life and someone else's. Sophia Contagonis, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Coming up after the break, we'll have your weekly fish and tips and the weather details with Alex Sykes. Hello again. Now let's hear from the experts with some fishing tips.
Welcome to another week around the Golf Fishing Tips from Port Pirie. Things are starting to hot up, and with no doubt that we're actually getting the best time to go crabbing and fishing at this particular time. The yellowfin whiting are right around the place from Maroona Island up to Barrows Beach. Anytime you want to wade out, particularly at night or early morning, you'll get yourself a feed. Remember that you only take what you need and all that sort of stuff, and be careful of the smaller ones. There is some around them this year. Blue swimmer crabs are really starting to march well, and I think the best catches we're seeing at the moment is the top award spit and also cockle spit. You should be able to find yourself some good chaps. That's all we've got this week. We'll see you next week.
G'day and welcome to Fishing Tips in Port Lincoln. We'll start locally in the bay. There have been some really good garfish catches over the past week. That's been down in Proper Bay and down along the National Park coastline and out towards Donington as well. Best reports of whiting have been from Spilsby Island and further offshore down south. There's been some really good reports of tuna down around the Cabbage Patch and Liggy Island. And there have been some nice Samson fish down on the Cabbage Patch late in the day. Moving over to Coffin Bay, there's been some reasonable whiting catches around Farm Beach. There have been some salmon around the 3 to 4 kilo around Sir Isaac's, and there have been some nice red snapper caught out from Reef Head. Well, that's all for Fishing Tips this week. We'll see you again with more tips next week.
Now for a look at the region's weather, here's Alex Sykes.
Thanks, Louise. A bit of cloud around the region today. Port Lincoln 26 degrees, 30 in Whyalla, Broken Hill and Port Augusta 35, Port Pirie reached 32 and it reached a max of 30 degrees in Adelaide. Clouds skirting the south but bringing no rain. Skies are clear inland under high pressure. Looking at the waters for tomorrow, southerly winds 10 to 15 knots, seas at a metre, and the sun will rise at 6:46 with sunset just after 8 o'clock. Partly cloudy conditions expected across the region tomorrow. Port Augusta set for a top of 31, Whyalla 28, Port Lincoln 25, Coffin Bay 27, Woodner and Quorn both 31, Broken Hill sunny and 36, Port Pirie 30, Clare 28, Cleve 26, Kadina a top of 28 and Adelaide a top of 27 degrees. Looking ahead to the next 4 days, cloudy conditions in Port Lincoln moving to a top of 24 on Saturday and Sunday, around 26 on Monday. Cleve expected around 24 on Saturday, 26 Sunday and sunny and 29 on Monday. And Woodner's temperatures are increasing 34 Saturday and Sunday and a very hot 38 on Monday. Whyalla partly cloudy for the next 2 days, 26 Saturday and 27 expected on Sunday, sunny and 31 on Monday. Getting sunny in Port Augusta, 28 Friday, 31 Saturday and reaching 35 by Sunday. And in Kadina, 28 Saturday and 29 degrees on Sunday, 32 on Monday. Some cloud in Port Pirie, a top of 29 over the weekend, expected to reach 32 on Monday. A bit cooler in Clare with tops of 25 Saturday, 27 Sunday with a top of 31 degrees on Monday. Looking lovely and sunny in Broken Hill, 32 Saturday, 31 Sunday and 33 degrees on Monday. So pretty nice conditions across the region, Lou. Looking good for the weekend. Back to you.
Sounds pretty good to me. Thank you for that, Alex. And that's the local news this Thursday evening. Thank you for joining us. We'll have updates later, but until then, have a lovely evening. Good night.